What's up, Fellowship Creative? Hope you guys are doing wonderful. Hey, listen, I just want to share something with you out of out of my spirit, out of what God's just deposited into my life, and I think, man, it's so valuable for all of us. I'm actually sitting here in the car outside the church. Got here pretty early this morning, and having my quiet time. And I've been going through the book of Luke, and I read this verse this morning. I'm in Luke 11, and I read this verse, and it said, let me see if I can find it. It said, "The Queen of the South will rise at the judgment with the people of this generation and condemn them, for she came from the ends of the earth to listen to Solomon's wisdom." And I was like, the Queen of the South, and I make note of this because many times it's little verses like this that discourage us from reading the Bible because we're like, who's the Queen of the South? This thing's so confusing. I don't want to read the Bible. It hurts my head. But if you'll take the initiative to get on Google and type in Queen of the South Bible, man, it just directed me to what that's all about. And I was just reading, it's actually about the Queen of Sheba who came to visit Solomon, in the stories found in the book of First Kings, chapter 10. Um, it says, when the Queen of Sheba heard about the fame of Solomon and his relationship to the Lord, she came to test Solomon with hard questions. First of all, a little history lesson on Solomon. Solomon was the son of David. He was aware of all the things that God did in David's life. He was aware that God used his father to do things that were um, amazing. And then when David died, God chose Solomon to basically follow in his footsteps, to carry the baton. Well, God appears to Solomon. This is in 2 Chronicles chapter 1. And he says, what do you want? Ask anything and I will give it to you. You are my new chosen. You are my new anointed. What do you want? And David could have asked for anything in that moment. He could have said, give me this, give me that. I want more of this. I want more of that. You know what David asked for? He asked for wisdom and knowledge from the Lord to lead God's people. He said, who on earth is fit to govern and lead your people, Lord? His ask was a selfless ask. His ask was, equip me, empower me, not for my plans, not for what I want, but to lead your people, to share your glory. And as a result, it was this kind of surrender that God began to use him and do phenomenal things through his life, bringing him fame. But note also that the queen did not just come because of his fame, but because of his relationship to the Lord. And as I read that this morning, I'm just so inspired and think to myself, man, that is what I want people to say about me, to think about me, to know me as. I played a show last night down on Lincoln Road, and I met some really incredible artists, and God's just, it's amazing the relationships that I'm getting to build with some of these influential and just cool people. And I pray that there becomes a fame about me, but a fame that is tethered to what God is doing in my life and to the relationship that I have with God, not the uh, religious things that I'm attached to and the ritual things that I do that make me spiritual, but a relationship I have with God. I mean, there were plenty of people, believe me, at this time that were doing ritual type things, religious type things. She was interested in a relationship that he had with God. And so, anyways, check this out. This is incredible. So she goes to visit him, and it says here in verses 4 and 5, when the queen saw all of his wisdom, Solomon, all of his wisdom, the palace he had built, the food on his table, the seating of his officials, the attending servants in their robes, his cupbearers, and the burnt offerings made at the temple of the Lord, she was overwhelmed. What a cool picture of the church. What a cool picture of this woman who heard about all these things that God was doing in this man's life. She was interested in the relationship that he had with the Lord, so she came to visit him. Okay, think about in our lives, think about the people that they see the things God's doing in our life. They see the relationship and they come to visit us. They come to the church and then being overwhelmed by all that they see. Okay, check it out. the palace that he had built. Think about the house, the palace that God has built, that Jesus has built by sacrifice, by our lives. The food on the table. Think about the content that Ed preaches, that the worship is about, that we apply. Think about the content there, the food, the rich content that is being taught and applied. The seating of his officials. Think about the leadership she saw. She looked around and saw leaders underneath the vision of this godly man. Um, think about the servants, the attending servants in their robes. Man, think about when people come, they've heard about what God's doing in your life, they come to the church and they see this army of volunteers. People that are there not because they're getting paid, but because they're called. Because they're called. They're there because they're called. Nothing more. Think about it says his cupbearers. Man, a cupbearer was a very selfless responsibility. In fact, it was a very risky responsibility. She was seeing men and women not only serving but taking risk. I think Ed said that a cupbearer, they would test the wine for the king because sometimes people would try and poison the wine. These were people that were risking their lives for God's anointed. Unbelievable. The burnt offerings that were being made to the Lord. Think about when people come here and they see the worship. They see the lives being laid down. I mean, I'm not just talking about raising hands and singing songs, but I'm talking about when they pull in the parking lot. They see people worshiping through parking, through laying their life down and offering sacrifices to God, through greeting, through checking in, through doing children's ministry, through students, all these things, through us on stage pouring out songs to God, sacrificing time to make the worship experience incredible. And check it out. After seeing all these things, it says that she was overwhelmed. And it goes on to say in verse 7, she says, I did not believe these things until I came and saw with my own eyes. First she was attracted by the buzz, the fame of what God was doing in this man's life, and the relationship that she heard about or she saw that this man had with the Lord. I challenge us first, and myself, believe me, first and foremost, can that be said about my life? And get this, guys, the reason again that there was a fame in this person's life is not because they were going out and creating it on their own. It's not. It's because at the beginning of it all, there was a surrender. There was a surrender. There was a seeking first the kingdom and letting go of Solomon's plans and Solomon's desires. That's what created the fame. And he had a relationship with the Lord because he knew that in order for his life to be successful, it had to be coming from God. It had to be in relationship. So number one, I challenge myself is, can that be said about me? And then number two, am I doing everything I can do? And I ask you to ask yourself this, to make the house, this place that God has built, this place where he has established leadership. He's bringing together an army of anointed volunteers to make this house a priority so that when they come to see with their own eyes, they are overwhelmed. Later goes on to say that this queen, she praised the Lord. She desired what she saw in this palace, in this house. So that's my encouragement to us, my challenge to us. We have a phenomenal opportunity right now, not just with South Beach Nights, but what God's doing through Fellowship Church. Think about this. We're the only Christian, religious, spiritual, whatever you want to call it, show to ever go on the E network. I don't know if you guys are aware of this. Sons and Daughters was in the top 200 albums on iTunes this last week. That's nuts. We have no record label promoting us. I do not believe that's ever been done. I'm trying desperately to find out. It's in the top. It's like number 3 right now on the Christian and Gospel section. Man, that is platform. That is influence. That is God. Think about all the life change that we're seeing in Miami. Think about the connections on South Beach. Think about the Fillmore. Think about John Cicada. We have an interview with the mayor this Thursday that they have set up with us. God is moving. He has chosen us to be a part of it. Let's not miss out on it because we're too busy focusing on our plan. But let's make ourselves available to him, seeking his wisdom, seeking his revelation. I encourage you guys to check that story out. Have a wonderful week. Peace.